Hi guys, welcome back to Casting Commons, the show where we talk and discuss all things Pauper. I am your host, Teasdale, and this is my co-host, Aladdin, the heroic outlaw himself, Race.
Hello.
Well, it seems fitting based on obviously the discussions we're going to go down for. So, what have you been doing? Let's just say what you've been doing this week.
Well, yeah, it's probably a better way to put it because I basically haven't played any Magic. I played a game of Commander on Friday. But yeah,
Hats off to you.
I've basically been avoiding playing Pauper on Magic Online. It's pretty grim. So I've just played loads of Lorcana instead. It's obviously pretty fresh. It's fun. The availability is starting to look like a bit of an issue at the moment, but hopefully they'll solve that. Apart from that, not much.
Sound?
How about yourself?
I've been playing quite a bit of Magic, to be fair. I've also been playing quite a lot of, I want to say Pixelborn, I guess, because I've not really been playing Lorcana. I actually still haven't played, apart from the one game we played when you first got the Star Decks. I actually haven't touched Paper Lorcana at all. But yeah, played quite a lot of Pixelborn. I've wrote a lot this weekend, to be fair. I've had a lot on, like, live stuff-wise, so committing to record and playing has been quite tough. So, but I've had little gaps of, like, half an hour here, half an hour there, or whatever. So, ended up doing a lot of writing. Got a Lorcana article coming out. Got a Pauper article coming out. And, yeah, been quite good. I did, however, manage to do the Deck Doctor on Sunday, which has been out yesterday as of recording today. And probably her Mono White Heroic will probably come out maybe Wednesday or Friday.
That's sweet.
So I really was excited to play Mono White Heroic. More, even though, as we'll get down, no new cards. I personally did, because, you know, I'm a sucker for some new cards. But, yeah. And it was fun. Is the best way I can describe it. It was definitely fun, but it is overshadowed by let's just say by the shit show we've got below.
Yeah.
Is the best way we can say.
What new cards did you play? Just to keep it a bit light to start with.
So I played 4 copies of, is it Slumber and Keep card?
Oh yeah.
The Scry enchantment dude that has an ethereal armor ability. And 2 Besotted Knights.
Nice.
So I just really want to test that ward kind of protection thing going on. One thing in testing for Deck Doctor, the Rowan's bargain card, the Read the Bones. I don't know if you know this card. It's a 3-mana bargain that if you bargain, you look at the top 4 and you can put up to 2 back on top and then the rest in the graveyard. And then you draw 2, lose 2. That card surprised me. In general, like, even anything, like, I'd actually, after playing with it, I'd probably even consider a 1 or a 2 of in Gardens.
Cool.
So that's probably my next thing that I'm going to mess about with. Because
seeing 4, well, possibly 6 cards, I guess, is a lot.
Yeah, especially
if you get the graveyard synergy as well.
So, pretty cool one. Really did like that card. Really impressed me. So I want to test that some more in the coming weeks. Unless we get a new set probably next week, where I won't be surprised also. But, hey ho. Now guys, let's move on to a bit of news in Pauper. Not really too exciting, just the standard one that is here. The Northern Pauper Open is here on the 8th of October at Geek Retreat Leeds. The event is capped at 64 players due to venue constraints. So I'd get your tickets as soon as possible. However, the pre-sale, or the early bird, it's called, has ended. It is now just general admission, as we are basically less than a month away. So it is just general admission tickets. So you will not be drawn into the secret lair, as we have been saying for the past few weeks. Just to make you aware, we are getting there at being 64 capped. I think there's like 40-ish.
Oh, nice.
Guaranteed pre-sale tickets. So doing pretty well. So it's going to get capped. Telling you. But the link will be in the description below. And yeah, I highly recommend you think about going if you consider it. I'd highly recommend it. We are currently still looking at going, so we'll be there. And that's pretty much it for the news. Nothing really exciting in the Pauper world, unfortunately. So, guys, let's move on to Saturday, the 9th of September.
Yeah. The more exciting challenge, I'm going to say, out of the two, which doesn't bode well for Sunday. First place was Kiln Fiend. Obviously, we see Kiln Fiend just randomly pop up and win challenges. Done it again. Second place was Ponza. Third and fourth was a Kuldotha Red and another Ponza. And then fifth through eighth was the Boros, Boros White Weenie with 4 Pyroblasts in that we seen last week. A Core Gate, a second Core Gate that has splashed black in the main for Fumes, and a Mono Blue Terror. And then the 2 near misses were an Affinity and another Mono Blue Terror. Not entirely sure where to start. Obviously, last week we covered the White Weenie Pyroblast deck. Boros Bully, I guess you've called it on here.
Yeah.
4 Pyroblasts in the main deck shouldn't be top 8 in challenges.
Twice.
Yeah, twice in a row. It's obviously a pretty big sign from how skewed the format is. Obviously, both the Ponzas are main deck and Relica Progenitors as well. And then alongside this, obviously, hate for blue, the Swift Spear decks with Kiln Fiend and Kuldotha just continue to just steamroll people. I guess one of the positives to take away from something like this is Core Gate, which is sort of a pretty fair Pauper deck, a pretty healthy deck, I would say, for Pauper. Continues to do well. It seems to just be really well set up against sort of the top 2 or 3 decks.
Yeah, definitely. Again, another deck, obviously, one of the Core Gate's main decks, Fumes. Fumes, it's not obviously on the same vein as Pyroblast or Relic. Like, don't get me wrong, it still is a card that's, as they, it's got other game against other things, but obviously it's there for Kuldotha as well as the Mirror and things like that. And you can also just cycle it, so it's not like it isn't on the same level as Pyroblast or Relic by any stretch, but it does show that the metagame is sort of warped when a lot of the Core Gates were blue-white, basically, for red sideboard cards. So it's definitely a severely warped metagame, and that even slight little thing is definitely adding to it. But another thing to mention, similar to last week, with Elves winning the challenge, Kiln Fiend is sort of the off-the-wall, in air quotes, red deck. All these decks are so inbred, like Boros Bully's got Pyroblasts in the main, these Ponza decks have got Relics in, all that sort of stuff, that even their flex slots are so fixated on beating the other 3 decks, like the top decks, that all these random decks that were probably non-existent 3 months ago are just randomly winning challenges. Which is...
Yeah, Kiln Fiend is like Elves, I suppose, one that just has the raw power if the interaction is lacking.
Yeah.
You can just roll over people. Obviously, the red matchup's not ideal because they've just got piles and piles of burn. But if you can avoid that, you can just run through most of the other decks.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with like Ponza, they have 3 Screds, and that's about it.
Yeah, and if you don't really care about them blowing up your lands, you can kill them off 1 or 2 lands easily. So yeah, it's definitely not an exciting challenge. Again, Core Gate, as we have mentioned in previous episodes, is not the most exciting deck to play or even play against. It's overall pretty boring in my eyes. It's just obviously a generic control deck, but this is like the glimmer of hope that we've got. It's like it's not. It is just a fair deck that's just trying to do things with obviously Basilisk Gate, which is as probably about as fair as you can get in Pauper as of late.
Yeah.
So unfortunate state to show that where the meta is at, in my opinion.
Yeah. Obviously we'll get on to the Sunday next, but it's not as exciting as it used to be. Obviously, we're getting very solidified in what's good. Pretty much every week we're talking about Core Gate, Ponza, Kuldotha, Terra being in the top 8. And that leaves very little room for anything else. Which is a shame, really. It is a shame.
Yeah, definitely. Happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to let you guys know, so this week we're going to do this on a case by case basis based on the actual challenges. So we are going to leave out the deep dive segment for the Saturday and Sunday, and obviously the other event that we are going to cover. Because of late, it has become difficult to find anything new, anything interesting in pretty much any of the top 32.
Yes,
Basically,
it's a tough sell.
yeah, I don't. There's only so many times we can talk about random glitters decks, random affinity decks, Ponza. Like if we're getting excited because the 75th card in Colgate's sideboard was a black card, not a red card, like we've got something wrong going on here. So we're just going to save you guys the time and not talk about the deep dive. But we do have something else coming on later on in the episode, which hopefully should, I don't know, like, reignite these fires of Pauper. Let's go. So, happy to move on to Sunday?
Yeah, so Sunday the 10th. There was a challenge on Sunday, and we will we'll look at that challenge. First place was Kuldotha. Second place was Kuldotha. Third and fourth was Kuldotha and Mono Red 1-drops.
Which
and
is
then
basically Kuldotha.
Well, it's Kuldotha with slightly less 2-drops. And then fifth through eighth was Ponza, Blue White Glitters, another Kuldotha, and Old School Affinity. And then the two near misses in 9th and 10th were Kuldotha and Kuldotha.
Yeah. So, Kuldotha?
Yeah, this is obviously a challenge that has happened. Interestingly, no Terra in the top 8, even in the top 10.
10.
With the switch to like mono blue Terra, it's so much worse against the red decks than the blue black Terra. You don't have like snuff outs if they go for a massive swift spear. You don't have the unexpected fangs. You don't have the fumes. You just have a lot less tools, which leads to it being a lot worse positioned than blue black would have been in this like a situation like this. Obviously the top 10 is four decks, all of which I would say are sort of the higher tier decks. Affinity is sort of a bit of an outlier as it's dropped back a bit as of late, in favour of the Glitters deck. But Pons are obviously still showing up, and plenty of mono red.
Just a lot of it.
I think the more interesting thing as well is the Kuldotha decks are almost identical to what the Kuldotha decks looked like a year ago. They have one essentially new card in Ren's Resolve, and they're now running. The split is now to 5 copies of an Impulse effect, rather than trying to force the whole 8. So you're essentially just running one Ren's Resolve, and that's the only difference in the list from a year ago.
Well, can I just also, my first point is, would you have thought the phrase affinity has fell off in recent times would be something you have said at the start of this podcast? We're now on episode 20. So would you think episode 1 you would be saying that phrase with no bans?
I guess it's a tough one because Blue White Glitters is affinity. You just sort of differentiate and Grixis affinity to Blue White Glitters. Obviously, it's sort of like the old like Carapace Forger affinity fell away to when Bridges came out to this like new Grixis control sort of version. Like it's still a Mer Enforcer Frogmite deck.
True.
The Grixis control sort of versions fell off, but I think that's basically just been replaced by Blue White Cranial Plate and Dot Deck.
It's Boggles with Alpha Glands.
Yeah, it's still Mer Enforcer, it's still Forecast, it's still Frogmite, it's still Artifact Lands. So I maybe phrased that badly. The affinity core is still extremely strong and probably one of the best decks. Just I guess Deadly Dispute has fell off a little. Obviously Gardens is still doing really well. But outside of that, there's not many Deadly Disputes about, which is a weird one because it is obviously extremely powerful.
Yeah, it's it's a strange one to me. The Deadly Dispute is probably, as I would still say, one of, if not the best draw spell in Pauper. But it's, as you say, it's just not really existing now. Like, you've got Grixis Affinity, which isn't really a thing. As you say, blue-white glitters is just kind of took over that, or there's some sort of glitter variation. And then you've got Gardens. Like, again, another thing that I just would not think would happen.
Yeah. I think just Deadly Dispute without a massive pile of removal is too slow, which is a really horrible thing to think about. It's just, yeah, it takes too much time to assemble when people are dropping like two terrors on turn 3, or like killing you in turn 3 with Kuldotha, or blue-white glitters.
Another thing that I've kind of wrote down here to talk about is, at the minute, it is literally, there's, as much as there is no variation basically in the top 8 or even the top 5 decks really, the variation, it seems, in gameplay is so swingy, it's unbelievable. I'll use it to the extremes of what I've wrote down here. Is basically the variation is on who draws better. It's not on who plays better, or it's I drew 3 Swifties, you've only found 1 all that glitters, I win kind of job. To the point where I would almost argue you could, before you resolve your mulligans or whatever, you could literally just flip the top 10 cards of your deck, show each other them, and say, right, who's winning this game. Like, is basically the point of what it is. So it's just so much variation on the top of your deck. It's not like I outplayed you, or I played this sort of game plan and it's good against this one but bad against this one. It's just, I just drew better. Get good.
Yeah,
is basically the best way you can say it.
I do agree with you there, to be fair. I think it's the sort of nature of the cards that are in the top decks. Obviously, Swift Spear, if you just draw a bunch of Swift Spears and a bunch of bolts, you're probably just going to win. Like, it doesn't really matter what your opponent has.
Yep.
All the glitters is the same. Like, if you just dump your hand playing all the glitters that don't have a removal spell, you're just going to win the game. Even to an extent, Ponza, like, if you just go turn 1 Sprawl, turn 2, blow your land up, turn 3, blow your land up, like...
Yeah. It's not.
There's not a lot of play against, like, I guess not god hands, but like really good hands from these decks. It's a struggle to play into. Same with Terror. If they just dump 2 Terrors out on turn 3, like, it's a real uphill battle if you haven't got a hand that matches that power level.
Yeah, and that is just the state of Pauper. Is just so much variation in powerful draws, and it's who draws the powerful draw first, or whose works better. Do you know what I mean? It's just very, and it's probably, with that being said, generally over the past couple of weeks, it's probably why Mono Blue Terror is seeing more play than currently than Blue Black Terror, is because the variation on my lands and untapped means I'm most likely a turn or 2 quicker.
You can do it faster, yeah.
So therefore, I'm generally better. And it obviously that doesn't bode too well based on, obviously, currently with Kuldotha versus Blue Black versus Kuldotha versus Mono Blue. Like, obviously Blue Black's generally better. But as an overall metagame, being able to be that turn faster against Blue White Glitters, against Ponza, against all this sort of stuff would be just game ending. And it's probably why Mono Blue Terror is the Terror deck at the moment, I would say.
Interestingly, yeah, obviously omitted from this Sunday that we've seen one on Saturday, or 2 on Saturday, I guess. But yeah, there was very little Terror on Sunday, which I guess is probably a result of just the sheer amount of Kuldotha that's about.
Yeah.
But I pulled some numbers from the top 32 just to look at, to give sort of a talking point. I've sort of grouped a few decks together just around what I would say are some of the most powerful cards. So of the top 32, 11 decks were playing Swift Spears, 8 decks were playing Mirroring Forces, and 6 decks were playing Avenging Hunters. So in the whole top 32, there's 7 decks that don't run one of those 3 cards. And I think 3 of the decks were gates, like core gate. So there's 4 decks in the top 32 that are outside essentially 4 archetypes, which is just nuts, really, to think about.
Yeah, and
and generally, the decks that you see outside of these archetypes are decks that themselves can run really hot. Like you were saying at the start, when you were playing mono white heroic is a deck that can compete like that. Combo decks like Walls or Cycle Storm that basically just try and roll better than the opponent, and if they do, they're gonna be more powerful. Are usually the decks that fall into that category.
Yeah, definitely. As I think I noted here, like out of the 7 of decks, the 4 decks were like random as well. There was like a Walls combo, a Blue Red Fair, a Boros Synth, and a Stompy, I think is what was left. Like, don't know, like when we were in the conversation of arguing that Blue Red Fair is like the fair deck as well, and like, but what 18 months ago people were crying out for Spell Stutter Sprite to be banned, and now there's 1 copy in the top 32. But yeah, as you say, it's just trying to like a lot of these decks do have a lot of game against certain answers. Like I said, Blue Red Fair can answer a lot of what Mono Red's doing, for example, or Glitters, but it's not. You are very much in this high rolly meta, and it's just them numbers about, as I say, 11 decks being Swift Spear decks, 8 being Mirror Enforcer decks, 6 being Avenging Hunter decks, and all that sort of stuff. That just shows the high rolling nature of like this format, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'd sort of even lean in a bit harder on those 4 decks that we've mentioned. Stompy, Boros Synth, Blue Red Fang, Combo Walls. I'd say the first 3 are probably just a bad choice for this meta.
Yeah.
They were just sort of a bit of a hedge that got in the top 32. Combo Walls, obviously, you can go bigger than everything else and you can kill pretty quickly. I can see why you would want to play that in this meta, but trying to play like Stompy and against Kuldotha seems pretty grim.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I believe one of the Avenging Hunter decks was also like the Initiative Ramp Walls as well, so there was 2 copies of Walls going bigger.
Yeah.
So it's pretty well. The interesting thing that I have noticed that 8 decks running Mirror Enforcer, I expected at least one of the 7 that are left to be like a Mono White Heroic or Bogles, but just non-existent, because why run those all that Glitters decks when you can run a Mirror Enforcer one?
Yeah.
But
it's faster than those 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're happy that you done about Sunday? I'm happy to move on.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover I think it's Come On Magic, which is and it was an event that was ran by Common Magic. I don't know if I might be pronouncing this all wrong, to be honest. I don't know how the naming conventions go, but it was an event, like a weekend event that's run in Katowice. Again, might be naming that wrong, in Poland. It was a weekend event that seems to celebrate everything Pauper. It had a main event Pauper, which we will be covering below, and a Pauper Trios, which we won't be covering, and also had a Pauper Cube as well. So it's pretty cool. There was at least there was a top 64 on the deck lists and stuff, so it'd be pretty cool to. So it's a lot of people, it seemed, including, again, I can never pronounce this gentleman's Magic Online name. I think it's Probos. I think is his Magic Online. I can never get it right. I just call him Probo by the end of it. And also Heisen was there as well. So pretty sweet.
I'll let you cover this. Obviously, this is a lot more your bag.
Yeah, so in first place was Blue White Glitters. In second place was Black Green Gardens. Third place was a Corgate. Fourth was a Kiln Fiend, or Jordan Ensu Blitz, as it was put on Twitter. Fifth place was Blue White Fams. Sixth place was another Black Green Gardens. Seventh was a Bogles. Eighth was a Kuldotha Red. And 9th and 10th, near missing, was a Grixis Affinity and a Mono Blue Terror. So, main thing is, obviously, Paper Pauper is never going to reflect Magic Online, ever. And it is I would like to say it is definitely still slightly refreshing to see, because even not necessarily the top 8, because a lot of these decks I'd consider at least top 8 and pretty much most challenges. Obviously, you've got Glitters, you've got Gardens, you've got Corgate, you've got Kiln Fiend, all top 8 in the last 2 challenges, and obviously the Kuldotha as well. Like, all these decks are all over Magic Online. But the further down you go, the top 64, the more you see. Like, there's Jund Reanimator, there's Goblins Combo, there's Black White Ephemerate, and that's just to name a few. Like, half of them I forgot existed, I'm not gonna lie. But one thing that I do like to know on a community side of things is, which always makes me laugh in terms of like an event like this, and same with Pauper, is that you get this kind of a player or whatever who's known for an archetype, i.e. Kiln Fiend in this example, who top 8'd. He got his name known as, like, everywhere I seen it was just Jordensu Blitz, and I'm like, what is this deck? But it turns out it's just everyone around him. So he's so known for playing this version of Kiln Fiend that's just kind of what it got known as. And it's really, like, wholesome that basically, like, this event got, like, international coverage, but yet it still has its local spin on things, which is really nice and refreshing. It really does, like, make me appreciate the Pauper community, even though the actual state of the format is in dire. But it really does, like, it kind of, like, warms your cockles up, kind of thing, is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, obviously paper always looks a bit better than Magic Online. People are more willing to just play stuff with that may offer less of a expected value, I guess. But more fun to play. Like, enjoy playing in paper more. I still think this sort of, especially the top 8, well, even the top 10, sort of does reflect what we were just saying above, where it's basically Mirroring Forcer deck, Avenging Hunter deck, Gate deck, Swift Spear deck, Mirroring Forcer deck, Terror deck, Swift Spear deck. Obviously with fams and Bogles sneaking in there as sort of a bit of a off field that can compete because they can combo out or they can go as big. But it is very much a sort of, not the exact reflection, but a similar reflection of what we are seeing on Magic Online.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it was definitely fun to see. Like, there's coverage of it. You can watch the VODs on, I think, Twitch it was on. So you can definitely, like, re-watch the event, and it was super fun to watch, even if I didn't understand a single word that was being said because I don't speak Polish. But it was definitely great to see. One story that you guys may have seen on Twitter, which absolutely blew my mind, I'm not gonna lie, and probably yourself, Reese, as well, was this sudden death story from the top 8. So for some reason, I don't know why, I don't know what the reason behind it was, but the story is that the top 8 was timed, and they went to turns in top 8, which doesn't, for those that don't know, it doesn't normally happen. They're usually untimed, and they go best of 3, best of 5, whatever they're deciding is usually best of 3, and the just winner goes to the next to the quarterfinals, semifinals, all that sort of stuff, right to the finals. For some reason, it was timed, and it went to after turns, because you can't have a draw in the top 8 because one person needs to win and one person needs to lose. The sudden death was the person with the most life won. So, whatever. So that makes decks like Gardens or Farms or whatever, decks that can, like, utilize their life total as a resource with Reckoner's Bargain, Spinning in Darkness, Godfarer's Faithful, Sacred Cat, all that sort of stuff, probably and most likely do better. So the story is that Hyson lost, I think, going into the finals. He attacked a few times with a Sacred Cat, and then effectively the Gardens player ended up beating him on the last turn, I think, of time by Spinning Darkness and a few things to gain 6 life, to be on a higher life total than the opponent, than Hyson, and then move on to the next round. But yeah, wild.
It's a pretty odd one. I imagine it's usually due to venue constraints, stuff like that. Like, they maybe have to be out at a certain time.
Yeah.
But yeah, a very, very odd one, not the norm.
Yeah, definitely not norm, and definitely a funny story, to be fair, because I think because of, to me, it's probably just because who it was as well. Like, the fact it was Hyson, it just automatically just gets more more eyes on it, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much me for the Common Magic event in Poland.
Yeah, good event.
It was definitely cool,
Yeah,
cool
nice
to
to
see.
see.
So yeah, just quick shout outs. I'm probably gonna absolutely butcher these names, but this Bernadossa, is that what we're going for?
I would say that.
Top 4 on Saturday and second Sunday, is that? Both times with Kuldotha.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah, carving it up.
absolutely tearing it up indeed. But shame it was with, Kuldotha. You're part of the enemy now. But well done anyways. Also Kirby again for top 4 event. Again with 4 Pyroblasts in the main. Thank you for this. Keep doing what you're doing because you're obviously it's working. Just keep rocking them sideboard cards and put them in the main.
People will start submitting basic lands, 60 card basic lands again soon.
Yeah, we won't be far off. And I guess the last one is obviously from the Common Magic event. Congrats and shout out to Hytham for obviously top 4 in it. And shout out to Probo for winning the whole thing with blue white glitters. And I believe he went undefeated in the entire thing.
Jesus.
Just is my understanding. So
Yeah, that's pretty
I
impressive.
know he definitely went undefeated in the Swiss. And that obviously went undefeated in the top 8 because he won the whole thing. So pretty good going. Be interested to see how many games he actually lost in the matches as well. But clearly, if you're absolutely pro, you can blue white glitters is the deck to play. That is for sure. So yeah, that's a shout outs, guys. So we're gonna move on to a segment which is the bans and restricted discussion. Obviously, a lot of people have had complaints over, the state of the format and all that sort of stuff. So we thought we'd basically just give it a go, is the best way to describe it. So we thought we'd go over all the changes that we would potentially look at making. Maybe not all at one go, maybe ban some of these, not all of these, some cards to even unban as well. Just more talking points of where we think the problems in the format lie is the main one.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of stuff to consider. Like, we're not saying ban all of these all at once.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even ban all of them at all, but these are what we think are essentially the problems. So I'm gonna go first with an easy one. Swiss Spear. It's the obvious first pick. It's way too powerful of a creature to be a common. Like, it just shouldn't have been downshifted.
Yeah.
Its rate is just by far above anything else in the format, and it's just an auto, including any aggressive deck that's playing red.
Yeah. It's just, like, to be fair, even some Boros decks like that run Thraven Inspector just jam Secret of the Way and Monastery Swift Spear in the deck. Just well, why not? I'm just now aggressive and I'll just kill you. Swift Spear does a job at that. So definitely an obvious pick. It's definitely one that it is, as many people have said, it is just too powerful for a common creature, and you've obviously reiterated there. The next one is Tolarian Terror. It's just another one that is just too powerful as a common creature. 1 mana 5/5 was already strong in the sense of Gurmag Angler, but the fact that it doesn't turn off the others, all this sort of, it's got ward. There's just a lot of, it's in a completely different color. Like, it's in a more problematic color as well, being blue. There's just, there's so many reasons why it's just, to me, it's just too powerful as a creature that you can't really interact well with, like, even with relics or spell bombs or whatever. There's so many different ways that you can just get around. It is very, very problematic as a common creature, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a similar one to the Swift Spear, really. The rate is too good. Gurmag was obviously always really good anyway. This is a Gurmag that can chain into other Gurmags, so you don't lose your graveyard.
Yep.
And you can't target without paying mana.
Yep.
And he's in a better colour. All sort of add up to pushing it over the top. The next one I've got is the Modern Horizons Bridges. Affinity was always like a really powerful deck. I used to play it years and years ago with like Carapace Forgers and Atogs and things like that. But it's its weak point was always its mana base. It was obviously very fragile to like Gorilla Shamans or removal, just normal artifact removal because none of them are indestructible. And the color, like, there's no fixing; they're all one color, so you play 4 of each, and they're all different colors. The bridges basically just completely removed this weakness. They fixed the color. They stopped Gorilla Shaman being an issue. They basically just made the deck consistent and not fragile anymore. The bridges themselves essentially caused Atog, Disciple, and Sojourner's Companion all to be banned as well. And the argument's always been, oh, well, let other decks exist. And I just think it's time the bridges go. Cleanse and Wildfire decks are not enough of a draw for this to still happen.
Yeah, 2 things on that. A, can you remember the last time anyone played Ancient Grudge? I love that card against it.
Exactly.
And secondly,
it's just not functional.
And secondly, the only Wildfire deck that's playable in air quotes is miserable to play against, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So definitely not a reason to even, just be gone. Out of all of these so far, I'm not even joking you, the one that I would love to have banned the most is Bridges. I hate it. Hate them. I hate what they've done to the format.
Yeah.
As much as I do love Kenku, but you know.
You can still Kenku with Darksteel Citadel.
Very
They
true.
won't ban that one.
No, they won't.
It's a balanced bridge.
The next one we have here is Avenging Hunter. It's the last of the. It is the last one. Oh no, there's the torch. But yeah, it's basically the last initiative card.
There's the white guy as well, right? The giant
Goliath Paladin as well.
There's a few left.
Yeah, but it's basically in the color that ramps. Even like Lamar Visionary, obviously, Utopia Sprawl, Arbor Elf, all that sort of ponzery stuff. You've also got the ramping Visionary in Gardens. You've got Deadly Dispute, which ramps. It's just a really problematic card. As much as, don't get me wrong, I love playing Gardens. The fact that once you've controlled the game or whatever, and you just turn the corner so quickly, I play Avenging Hunter, you've got 2 turns, your turn. Go. It's just, it's not even remotely, again, it's just the rate is just so powerful for a 5 mana creature, and that's paying 5 mana for it. And then that's not even mentioning the whole commandery thing on it where you're playing another sub game or it's not an easy clean mechanic. Like how many times is the legacy players meme before they were on Magic Online like, oh, I'm not even going to learn how to work this card. Okay, good for you. You play that. But yeah, it's just not a good card. To me, it's just not a good mechanic. To just even having one-on-one.
I think obviously we've seen with all the other initiative bans, like the mechanic is too good. Avenging Hunter is obviously the one that sees the most play, and all the decks that play it ramp it out as fast as possible. They all have some form of getting it out faster. The body that it's on is like a decent rate for a body, 5 mana, 5/4 trample. And then obviously that just adds to the fact that if you're playing in paper, the card doesn't tell you what it does. And it's sort of a lot to take in from one card that is also just ridiculously powerful.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. I would sort of add to this that it should just be all of the initiative cards that are left should just get banned.
Yeah, it's just not
they sort of started to take it out, and they should have just took it all out.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, don't get me wrong, it's in theory in where they wanted it to be. Like, as I said, they wanted it to be a lot slower. They still think it's kind of got some play to it. Don't get me wrong, it kind of has, but it's still just not a positive, fun experience to have. Especially this, like, battle between yourself. Like, the game's not really about that anymore and all that sort of stuff. There's just a lot of different issues with it.
The next one I've got is cranial plating. I mean, all that glitters. Need I say more? Cranial plating obviously being banned for an enormous amount of time. It is or can be more powerful than all that glitters. It's colourless and you can move it around. But essentially, it's the same card. it's a one-hit kill that you don't want really in your format. Especially if they're maintaining like artifact lands, Frogmites, Marine Forces. We're getting more and more cards that just add artifacts to the board, like Blood Fountain, like Thraben Inspector, like Vildaran Epicure. Artifacts aren't going anywhere. And all that glitters is probably a downshift that shouldn't have happened.
I would like to add that basically, if this was just ethereal armor at 2 mana, I don't even think this would be on the list. And it literally
we'd be happy it was in heroic, and then we'd leave it at that.
Yeah, heroic, Bogles, all could exist, all are fine. It is literally just the artifact side of things, and I would much rather ban all that glitters to remove that deck, go back to like Grixis Affinity or 4-color non-bridge Affinity, than ban every other 56 other cards out of blue-white glitters to make sure that all that glitters only landed in heroic and Bogles. It's just cards very strong in the artifact side of things, not the enchantment side of things.
Yeah.
Another thing I kind of want to touch on here for the next 2 cards, it is not I want these banned right now, or I think they should be banned right now, or whatever. Because as we've just mentioned, Deadly Dispute is one of the lowest played cards. Probably it's the lowest it's probably been in a long time. But the 2 cards on this list are Deadly Dispute and Ephemerate. And the reason why I want to add these to the discussions, because it's all well and good saying Swift Spear, Tolarian Terror, Bridges, these are the problem, ban them. But then you've got to look at what's the format going to look like after that, and that will be like obviously the PFP's job of when they look at banning things, they'll look at what's going to be the next best deck, what's going to potentially be problematic that these have kind of been suppressing. And these 2 cards, basically there's no 2 ways about it. These 2 cards are very, very powerful, and I'd almost even argue busted for Pauper. Like, Ephemerate is probably the longest standing card on this list. It's from Modern Horizons 1. Every card we mentioned previously is a lot newer. So is Deadly Dispute. It's definitely, I think it's the oldest after that. I'm not sure on the print how many sets. I can never remember the order. These 2 cards are very, very powerful and almost busted and very problematic commons and all that sort of stuff. But due to the, let's say, the exponential speed of power level of Pauper, these have just been simply overlooked. Because by the time Ephemerate came out, Deadly Dispute came out. By the time Deadly Dispute came out, the Bridges came out and all that sort of stuff. Power levels just went absolutely mental. And these cards have just remained hidden is the best way I can describe it. So if we are going to talk about, it's kind of the best way to describe it is probably the Treasure Cruise dig through time sort of thing, is where they banned Treasure Cruise in, was it Modern, and then the immediately banned dig through time
in
Legacy.
The banned Treasure Cruise, and then everyone just put dig through time into the deck.
And it's just that kind of thing. It's like you've got to look like what the format's going to be like afterwards. And I think at that point, Deadly Dispute and Ephemerate are very problematic cards for the format and should really be at least kept an eye on, if not banned.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is the 2 cards that we want probably banned less than all the cards we've spoken to about above. But if you start banning the cards above, these are 2 cards that will come back and be extremely powerful.
Yes.
My last one for the ban side of the discussion is, I guess, an honourable mention more than an actual thing. Obviously, a lot of people in Wizards, especially like Gavin, have spent time trying to unify Pauper as a format between Magic Online and Paper. Reprinting cards that were printed on Magic Online as common but not in Paper as common, like Battle Screech, and things like that. And then Maro decided that the unset should be Black Border. And it's you basically can't put these cards on Magic Online. So Pauper now can just not be unified. Like, it's not possible to unify it anymore. The Magic Online and Paper will be different. And I think it's just not, there's no need in that. Like, the uncard should just have remained silver border. So we should ban all the uncards that are black bordered.
I think that's fair, to be fair, because it's not like, the worst thing is it wouldn't be that much of an issue. Like, don't worry, it would always remain as an issue, but it wouldn't be that bad of an issue if they were actually unplayable. but some
Yeah.
of these cards are like borderline, like really good. Like,
Mm.
and Biggin's just a better giant growth, which is
Yeah.
obviously that's implemented. Imagine I'm a bad example. You've got obviously all these sticker cards which combo with Cauldron Familiar. You've got the underscore Goblin, which is just a great season song.
I think the goblins obviously the most obvious example of where this is an issue. There's obviously like the sticker cards that the mono green decks can play.
Yeah.
Like the chicken and things like that. But the underscore goblin Daybreak are having like issues or a lot of issues trying to put it onto Magic Online to the point where the card is now just a different card. Like it functions distinctly differently to how the paper card functions. So now you've just essentially added a new card to Pauper on Magic Online that is not in paper. So you're just making the problem even worse.
Yeah. But just get rid of them. Be easy enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on a lighter note, because bans are all doom and gloom, unbans. So I guess I'll go first on the easy one. I guess
Yeah.
Prophetic Prism. Why is that even there? We have Energy Refractor already, which is borderline better.
Well, it was banned before, like 10 minutes before Energy Refractor was printed, basically.
But no. Again,
Yeah,
another card that just died for Bridges' sins. Pretty much.
Yeah, in the Affinity version, yeah. Obviously, the reasoning was to hamper Tron, and then Energy Refractor come out, and it's like, well, this is just better than Prophetic Prism because we can use it multiple times. It's something that's filling out the ban list for no reason. I guess my first one is a bit of a wild take, but it's something that obviously we consider in relation to the state of the format. I feel like if you banned nothing, you could unban Cloudpost tomorrow, and there would basically be no change to the format. It's sort of a slant on the big mana Tron archetype, but it's slower than Tron because it's only land that taps for a lot of mana comes in tapped, and at the moment, being slow is just not playable. It's obviously got big plays, like you can have big turns with it, but I don't think that's really an issue at the moment.
You'll be dead before they turn up, is that what we're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. It also dies a lot harder to just like Ponza effects, because instead of Tron where you've got 3 lands, they all come in untapped, they have to sort of guess which one you don't have the next copy of. Where Cloudpost, it's just like, okay, I'll blow up the Cloudpost, I'll blow up the Cloudpost, I'll hit the Cloudpost. And then even if you've got a second one, it then comes in tapped and you have to wait another turn for your mana.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, especially as you say. If you don't ban anything, then easily it's most likely a safe pick here.
But yeah, obviously take it with a pinch of salt. Like if the ban, like Swift Spear, Terror, and Bridges, probably don't unban Cloudpost because the format will slow right down. But if we're keeping everything here and just trying to solve the format by unbanning stuff, yeah, you may as well unban Cloudpost. It's not going to do anything, but you may as well unban it.
But yeah, that's another point. Is obviously these, as we're saying, like bans and unbans. We're not talking these are everything. Like we want this all changed in big one go. Like we don't want all these banned and then all these unbanned. Like as you say, the format will be completely different. There is no way we would be able to tell you what this format is going to look like with everything banned and then all these. I think we got 5 cards on here to unban. I mean, the format would look wildly different. But these are cards. Obviously, we are saying unban with either little changes or keeping as is.
Yeah, they're sort of tied, I guess, to other stuff. Like, so my next one, which is basically under the assumption that we ban the Bridges.
Yeah.
If you ban the Bridges, I think just ATOG, Disciple, Companion, or some combination of can just be unbanned. Maybe not the Companion if you keep all the glitters in the format, but ATOG and Disciple with no consistent and solid mana base to back them up are not a problem. Like they existed in Pauper for years and years and years, and they were good. They were in Affinity, and you had the combo kill where you could sack all your stuff to them and sack all your stuff to the ACOG and kill with Disciple or fling the ACOG. But that's taken a lot of time to assemble. And especially if you've got a Gorilla Shaman hitting your mana base or an Ancient Grudge hitting your mana base or removal, like Disciple just dies to a Lightning Bolt, or even a Lava Dart. They aren't a problem without the bridges existing.
For sure. So the next one I have here is probably fine. I'd say with the pretense that as is, maybe if it's slowed down a bit, the format, then maybe not. Potentially. Unsure though. But the next one is Invigorate. It's a free. The only worry is obviously Infect. That's the only slot or only deck that this card is problematic at. It probably wouldn't be a tier 1 deck. There is an argument I could see for unbanning it as I said, the state of the format just can easily deal with Infect. Like the deck's not good now, and the deck won't be good with another pump spell in, even if it's free, to me. So, however, it's kind of the main thing that I want to mention is obviously, is it like kind of the Hymn to Turak argument that they had in the video? They did have the Pauper format panel, for those that didn't see it. They basically discussed unbanning like Hymn to Turak and Sinkhole, I think, was things that they looked at unbanning. Well, they said it'd be fine, but it's really not a fun thing to do. Like, yeah, okay, they're not going to break the format, but being hymned on turn 2 is definitely not fun for the format. And that kind of maybe leans into it. Like, if you're going to get killed turn 2 with Invigorate and Glistening Elf, it's probably not fun for the format, but it will definitely be fine for the format. It won't be broken.
Yeah. I think, I guess 2 points on that. Obviously, the hymn. Turn 2 hymn's probably not as fun, but Dark Ritual's in the format as well. So if you like turn 1 Dark Ritual, hymn your Ravenscrime, that's even worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the obviously Infect being good, it still takes a lot of cards to get a turn 2 kill, even if you unban Invigorate. Like if you go turn 1 Elf and then Imbig and Invigorate, it's still only 9. If you double Invigorate, it's still only 9. You need like multiple cards. And then them to have no blocker, which at the moment just basically doesn't happen. Like every deck's just playing out guys. I guess other than maybe Ponza. Every deck's got snuff outs or guys that play on turn 1. So yeah, I could see Invigorate being fine. I guess it would probably add a decent bit to mono green Stompy and might open up for something like a green red Film Fiend type deck as well, which will be interesting. It's definitely one I think is worth considering.
Yeah, definitely, and that's again what we're here to do is obviously just bring some discussion and talking points. But yeah, Invigorate's definitely on the consideration list because it's a free giant growth, kind of borderline. It's not really that exciting. And the last one, probably a bit wild, but still fun to talk about. Mystic Sanctuary. Combo decks in general have just fell off the face of the earth in Pauper. And balancing things in Pauper with combo seems to be a very big problem because the way they seem to tackle the bans is take out the enabler, not the actual pieces. So Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Right Flame, all that sort of stuff are all in the formats.
They removed the win con.
But Mystic Sanctuary obviously was a very powerful card when it was legal. You had access to, and also you've got Lorien revealed now as well to search for it. So it's definitely potentially, like, I'm not saying it needs unbanned because it is definitely not on there. But the fact that combo decks have fell off, I wouldn't be surprised. If I was in charge of bannings and unbannings, I'd maybe consider even unbanning it while monitoring it over a specific period to see how actually it would fare in a format, if I'm honest. Because there is a chance that it could just do nothing because everything's dying. You're dying turn 2, turn 3.
Yeah. I think this is the one I'm least sold on.
And I'm not sold on it.
Especially with like Mono Blue Terror being as good as it is at the moment. I don't think you want that, but I don't know. It would be nice to see them discuss like what they think they would unban or ban. But yeah, I'm
like,
not sure I could get behind Mystic Sanctuary.
don't get me wrong, I'm not 100% sold on this card. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it should be unbanned because it's free. Like, it's not a Tog or Disciple if the ban bridges, but it's definitely, I think it should be in some form of discussions, because the card's broken as hell, but it's also it can be quite slow.
Yeah, it's slow. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the argument. Like, if you die in turn 4, like you say, the same argument as Cloud Post. If you die in turn 4, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I think Lorien being able to tutor for it as well adds a lot.
That's pretty busted
to its power. Yeah.
So I think that's them all. So that is all our takes on bans and unbans. Like, we're not saying we want to ban all of these. We're not saying we want to unban all of these. In certain circumstances, we are saying that these all could be considerations for banning and unbannings. But yeah, guys, if you agree, disagree, you think something else should be banned, if you think Snuff Out should be banned, Lightning Bolt should be banned, I don't know, whatever cards you think should be banned or unbanned or whatever, just contact us, let us know in the YouTube comments, let us know on Twitter at CastingCommons1, or you can just tag us directly. We don't really mind. Just let us know what you think, if anything should be banned or unbanned, what you think the changes to the format should be. If for all any, if you think we're just complaining because, we've seen 6 Kuldothas in the top 10 for the past 5 weeks, if we're just complaining for no reason, let us know. If you think we should just adapt, be good, again, let us know. Because we are just some humble UK guys talking Pauper. So that's it from the ban and restricted discussions. Should we move on to our hot takes from last week?
Yeah. So my first one was that Mono Red will continue its current domination. Obviously, it's been arguably the best deck since around this time last year. Shows no sign of letting up. Obviously, yeah. I don't think we need to comment much on that after Sunday.
I think you missed.
No. Yeah, I was miles off. There was only 7 or 8 rather than the full 10.
Yeah. Could have tried harder. So mine is, as per usual, I just whiff on these things. We'll get 3 decks in the top 10 with new cards in. So I had 20 decks access to, because it could be Saturday or Sunday, and I got 0. No gap.
I'm not sure I've seen any new cards in either top 32, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think there was. No Brave the Wilds, no Candy Grapples, which I thought was even a fairly free one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just none.
My second take was that we're going to see more top 8s like Sundays. The 3 decks, basically Terra, Glitters and Mono Red, that are on another level to the rest of the format. But there's still enough space for fringe decks that have that power to sneak through the cracks. Yeah, basically last Sunday's is a mirror of this Sunday's challenge. Mono Red absolutely dominating. Decks like Kiln Fiends sneaking through. Again, unfortunately, that's sort of where we're at. Hopefully, it doesn't last forever.
I would arguably say this week's worse.
Yeah, I think it probably is.
So we
the Sunday is a lot worse, because it is just fully dominated. Nothing else won. Yeah. And the decks that even squeezed into the top 8 are like top tier decks that you'd expect.
Yeah. For reference, for those at home which might find this amusing, just to show how much we kind of, well, it was all Reese, to be fair. He put on the Sunday notes for the Sunday, our notes for talking on the podcast. He put Kuldotha, the 10th of September, because all of it was Kuldotha. So it shows how bad it was. We didn't do that last week. It was definitely worse. But yeah, final one from me was Brave the Wilds will featured in the top 32, preferably in Jund Cascade or Jund Wildfire. And as we mentioned already, there was 0 new cards in top 64, like both top 32s. Like, I thought there'd at least be Candy Grapple. Come on. Hot takes for next week?
Yeah. My first one that I'm running back once again. It's become my standard hot take. We will get some communication from the Pauper format panel. And then I've written, come on, please help me.
The man
So
just
yeah,
wants to play some
hopefully
Pauper.
we'll get some comment. Obviously, especially seeing this week's meta. I think it deserves a comment.
Yeah, I think it does as well. I think like even Saturday's challenge is pretty bad. It's just like even on sideboard cards and Sundays, just silly. My next one is not really about decks. The amount of players in the Pauper challenges will take a dip in player count due to the state of the online format. I think you average about, I think it's like 60 is Saturdays and like 70 or something like that on Sunday. I think it is. Or like the other way around. I think it's like maybe less on Sunday. But yeah, there's usually around 60-ish players in challenges, roughly, give or take. And I think that'll take a dip.
Yeah.
Serious dip.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. My last one is that basically Terra will have a resurgence next week, but more in its blue-black form to try and like combat the sheer amount of Kuldotha. And I guess as an add-on to that, that may mean decks like Glitters do better, because they're not having to fight through the mono blue side as much.
Yeah, I think it's a strange one, isn't it? Because obviously blue black's really good against. I would say it's pretty favourable against Kuldotha, but then you might automatically have like the other three decks like be worse. Like, but so they're all. Do you know what I mean? They're already probably okayly set up against blue black, so it's a weird one.
Yeah,
very strange one. But my last hot take is the best hot take. Reese will pick up Magic cards again next week. He'll put down his Disney cards, and it will dabble in Pauper yet again. That is what we are hoping for. No Commander. That doesn't count. It's not a real Magic format. Sorry for offending people. Pauper is true life. We can hope.
Possibly.
We can hope.
Possibly.
We can hope.
I might make you whiff on that one though.
Yeah, most likely. To be fair, I think we had like a Pauper F&M on Friday, and that just didn't happen. So yeah, definitely shows state of the Pauper format. Unfortunately. Anything else, Dad?
No, that's it from me.
So, guys, if you have enjoyed the Doom and Gloom podcast, please share it with your friends, your local Pauper community, your real estate agent or something. I don't know. Whatever we're going with. Word of mouth has really given us a big influx of viewers, so I really appreciate it, and it is fantastic that you guys are here to show love and support. Every episode is breaking the previous week's episode on views and plays and follows and things like that, so it's really great to see. So I like the fact that you're doing, you're sticking with us through these grilling times. But that's all from us at Cast and Comments. Until next time, don't forget to stay hydrated.
PFP, please help.